I wanted to just go over one of my pet peeves. My pet peeves about leftist circles. Because, oh, all right, we'll talk about that book. Let me just write it down. Folks, one of my greatest pet peeves with the mainstream U.S. left is that there's this atmosphere created where you're not allowed to know anything. You can't talk about facts, right? We know Ben Shapiro, awful right-wing guy, has this whole thing, facts don't care about your feelings. Well, Ben Shapiro's facts are often very, very wrong, but he's right in a way. He's right in a way. Because the left has this rule that you're not allowed to talk about facts. And it is a big pet peeve of mine. The synthetic left, the woke internet left, the Twitter mobs, the rad libs, people call them, they have this belief that you're not allowed to talk about facts. Great example. I'll give you many examples of this. It's been a long-standing pet peeve of mine, right? Do you folks remember at one point Alex Jones and the far right wing were talking about FEMA camps? It's like, oh, Barack Obama's going to put us all in FEMA camps. We're all going to be put in prison camps by Obama. Oh, FEMA camps. And then they would actually pull up a law. They'd say, don't you know there's a law, the Maupin Act of 1951. They're going to put us all in prison camps. Well, let's talk about facts. Is there a law called the Maupin Internal Security Act of 1951? Yes. And the Maupin Internal Security Act of 1951 was an anti-communist law passed amid McCarthyism. And it said that in a time of national emergency, the U.S. State Department would have a list, the U.S. Department of Justice, I believe, would have a list of 2 million subversives and communists who would be put in camps. That's what the law was. It was to be used against the left, and the courts overturned it, mind you. It was later in the late 50s, as McCarthyism was thawing, they overturned it. So is Alex Jones pointing to a true thing? Yes. Is he completely misrepresenting it? Yes. But I remember when I got an email from the Southern Poverty Law Center listing the top right-wing lies. One of them was FEMA camps. No such law exists. No camps were ever created. It's all a big lie. No, it's a real law. And there were actual camps that were set up. But the law was to be used against leftists and communists, number one. Number two, the law was overturned by the courts. But there's something real there. And the response of liberals, though, Southern Poverty Law Center, Media Matters, oh, this is just right-wing propaganda. It's all made up. You're not allowed to know anything. You're not allowed to know any facts. You're not allowed to, you just have to, no, facts, no. Another example. You know, right-wingers on the internet, I think some of these anonymous people, they have a meme now to attack the LGBT community. They talk about LGBTP, P being pedophile. And they try to make it look like the gay rights movement supports pedophilia, which they don't, right? It's an awful homophobic slur, right? And this isn't a long-standing thing. Conservatives have long said, oh, what, if we legalize being gay, next we're going to legalize pedophilia. Long-standing slur, right? It's a nasty, nasty thing. You know, people growing up, you know, a lot of people that I went to school with would say things like pedophiles and gays, or all gays are pedophiles. It's a long-standing homophobic slur on the LGBT community. That's a reality, and fighting against it is a good thing. But was there a time, decades ago, where unfortunately NAMBLA was allowed at gay pride marches? Yes. And why did that happen? Why was there a tolerance for them in the past? We're talking, I think, 1993, you know, even in the 80s, they banned pedophiles from gay gatherings. But why was there somewhat of a tolerance for them in the 60s and 70s at gay pride parades? It's because of the fact that there was a big problem with the fact that many young gay men were molested. And many young gay men had, you know, in their mind, some kind of confusion around that issue. And when in the 90s, the gay rights movement came to the consensus that we don't want NAMBLA around. We don't want them around. They have nothing to do with us. That was a great thing, and it showed that because of the gay rights movement, there was enough awareness around that issue. There was enough awareness around that issue that they could differentiate, and that changed. But did this happen? Yes, it happened. And the fact that it happened is deeply tragic. The tragic circumstances facing young LGBT people in the 60s and 70s and 80s. I mean, it was awful. To be gay, gay nowadays, everybody knows about gay people. There's gay people on TV, there's gay people everywhere, right? But back then, that was not the case. And so, because of that, there was a lot of confusion, and there were some prominent LGBT activists like Allen Ginsberg and Harry Hay who made very problematic statements, and it's very sad. And the gay rights movement now has corrected that issue, and it's a good thing. But you're not allowed to know that. You just have to shout homophobe at anyone who brings this up. No, it's an important issue. This happened, and the gay community got over that. And the confusion in the gay community went away because homophobia was eroded. Now, kids who are growing up, they know they're gay. They don't think they're the only gay kid in the world. It's a victory, and it shows that homophobia has been defeated. And when there was confusion around that issue, that was the result of the tragic reality of homophobia. But you're not allowed to know that. No, you're just supposed to, and that's the way these things are. Even the way I just talked on there. I opened my live talking about Kenosha, Wisconsin. And I talked about the police state. And I talked about what is driving the escalation of repression here in the United States. I talked about it. I talked about the economy. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to know anything in left-wing circles. You have to be stupid. You have to just be stupid. You just emotionally scream whatever the trendy slogan is. That's what you're expected to do, right? I'm talking about why political repression is increasing. I'm talking about why it's targeting the black community the most. I'm talking about why the government officials who probably wish it could be de-escalated can't de-escalate it. But no, you can't do that. This is stupid know-nothingism. Stupid know-nothingism. Right? You're not allowed to know facts. You're not allowed to know history. You're not allowed to know details. Just whatever the trendy liberal slogan is, you just repeat it. And you know, these people think that they've won an argument if they can throw a slur at you, right? I mean, it's classic, right? You know, if you call a right-winger racist, they don't care. I'm just telling you, that is a fact, right? They may very well be racist. A lot of right-wingers are very racist. But if you just say to them, you're a racist, you have accomplished nothing. But if you can dissect what they're saying, show how it is racist, show how it's not accurate, you have accomplished something. But if you do that, you're a big fat nerd, right? You're not allowed to know anything. The know-nothingism of the woke liberal mobs ultimately serves imperialism because they don't want this system to change. They don't want people to understand why things are happening the way that they are happening. They don't want people to understand that we can have socialism and we can have a society where the banks, factories, and industries are organized to serve public good and not profits. They don't want people to understand it. They just want emotions, lots of emotions. Ah, you're racist, you're sexist, you're not allowed to know anything. Facts are off limits. And if you know facts, you're a big nerd face. You're a big nerd face. Only nerds read books. Well, I'm sorry. Facts, details, information, these things are rather important. Logical arguments, history, economics, politics, these things are rather important. If we're actually going to get out of the crisis that we're in the United States right now, it's not going to come from woke, liberal, emotions, right? It's good that people are outraged about injustice. Good people are protesting. Good people are in the streets. But that in and of itself is not going to get us out of this mess. Meanwhile, racism and Trumpism and, all that demagogy we're seeing at the RNC, that certainly isn't going to get us out of the crisis. In order to get out of this crisis, we need a scientific understanding of how society works. We need dialectical and historical materialism. And that is what I am trying my hardest to promote and explain with my work on these lives.